Hello everyone. Welcome to one more episode of our State of AI Trust video blog. Today, we have an amazing guest, an AI policy and governance researcher, writer, and one of the most credible independent voices on AI in Global South. I'm glad to welcome Mr. Jibu Elias. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Shubhradeep. It's a really pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So, Mr. Jibu, if you can briefly introduce yourself and the wonderful work that you do.
Yes, so I work at the intersection of AI policy, governance, society, with a particular focus on what does this technology mean for inequality, public institutions, and global south on overall. So over the years, I have worked across research, policy, public engagement, and institution building, including other work connected to national AI conversations in India and a broader global debates on responsible AI. So, and from a largest perspective, what interests me is not AI as a some sort of spectacle, which most of the people tend to see it as, in a way, but rather as AI as a power structure, right? Who builds it, who governs it, who profits from it, and in the end, who pays a price when it fails. So a lot of current conversations on AI is still very narrow these days. A lot of focus is on innovation, productivity, competition. That's all good, and I have nothing against it. But I am more interested in the labor aspect, the truth, the culture, language, accountability, and larger individual dignity aspect of it. And this is what I'm trying to convey through my upcoming book also. The focus is about that how AI is not just creating new tools, it's redrawing old inequalities in sharper, more automated ways.
Thank you so much. I think the next 30 minutes is going to be very exciting and very knowledgeable for our audience. Thank you. Is there any specific incident, moment that made you join this space? So
There wasn't one single, cinematic moment there. Rather, it was a more slow accumulation of what I will say disillusionments, right? So for a long time, AI was sold as efficiency, progress, problem solving. This was the time of machine learning and where startup like DeepMind, so the AlphaGo came out, AlphaFold came out solving important fold, and Alpha, Craft was playing games. These are very exciting times, right? But later down, ever since the rise of generative AI, since ChatGPT and all of others become more mainstream, the more closely I looked, the more I saw that the systems were carrying many of the old prejudices into new infrastructures, right? They were never neutral, and they were inheriting these social hierarchies from the data we own, the institutions we have created, and the markets we have built. So one moment that did stay with me was seeing how these generative systems would produce, very polished, persuasive and completely false output with absolute confidence, right? And that kind of changed the stakes for me, right? Once a machine can fabricate plausibly, in a legal citation or a medical answer, or even a political event, right? Even a historical narrative. The question is no longer about just something like bias. It is epistemic instability, right? And it is the weakening of shared reality itself, right? And this is why AI safety dropped feeling abstract and started feeling more, let's say, societal, or for a better word, civilizational, right? So I think these things accumulating together has led me to focus more onto the AI safety and the socio-economic impact aspect of the technology.
exciting. Really love the way you have taken the granular steps, right, which have actually helped you to get in this space. And absolutely, I think hallucination drifts are essentially the biggest, I would say, challenges from the rapid adoption which is happening, but I think the architecture itself has necessary flaws that leads to hallucination effects. Great. Now that you have touched the chat GPT part and the GPT part, right? Which brings me to this point, very critical point, right? So we are already seeing a massive acceleration in AI adoption. Everybody, every leader, right in the private, government, and allied spaces, right? We are seeing them basically a huge push happening. Now, in your view, right, who is actually gaining power right now, and who is unfortunately quietly losing it?
So it's quite clear right from the get-go that the clearest winner here is large technology firms. Not everyone, but most of the big tech here. Then you have the cloud providers or the superscalers, right? The chip companies. We have seen the kind of monopoly NVIDIA has built over the last few years. And then the states, right? The states that can align capital, compute, and regulation behind them, right? So power is right now concentrating around those who control this overall stack. You have the data, you have the models, you have the compute, the platforms, and distribution, right? So now, but others are also gaining, right? Like power coil, like firms that can use AI to de-skill work, or governments that can automate surveillance and administrative control, and platforms that can insert themselves between people and knowledge. They are also gaining power and they're also benefiting. But on the other hand, who is losing power is equally important, right? Workers, first of all, right? Like when I speak about this, I might sound like an old labor union leader, but we are talking about, white collar workers, right? In intellectual workers, right? So workers, especially those in language based, administrative, certain level of digital creative space, or intermediate, or in cognitive roles, right? So smaller firms also lose power as a result, right? Because they increasingly depend on infrastructures they do not own, right? And the global south risk losing power in a much deeper way. Not just from an economical standpoint of view, but as I mentioned before, from an epistemical way as well, right? Because our languages, our histories, our social realities are being ingested into systems largely built elsewhere by people we don't know, right? And under the rules we did not design, right? So there is this interesting quote by this data annotation worker from Kenya in an interview she gave to DW, the German broadcaster, saying that she kept annotating cities, roads, and traffic lights, but none of them belong in Kenya. All of them were from California. So that itself shows that disparity. So yes, AI is diffusing tools, but it's also centralizing control, unfortunately. And that contradiction is at the heart of this moment, unfortunately.
Very interesting. Thank you. Now, going ahead, right? So, what is the most misunderstood aspect of AI governance today? And I think that the general people, right, as you mentioned, I think especially white collar people who are essentially day in, day out using these solutions, right? They are not talking about.
So when it comes to AI governance and regulation, people always look at this extreme scenarios, right? What we call existential threat scenarios and things like that. But so most people think AI governance, is mainly about the safety railguards for extreme future scenarios. About AI breaking into nuclear facilities or that kind of scenario, right? But that is too narrow, to be honest, right? And the most misunderstood part is that governance is already happening, but in a very bad manner, I would say, right? Every procurement decision, every opaque deployment in welfare cases, or policing, education, or hiring, right? Or even healthcare is a governance decision. But the real question is not whether AI is governed, it is whether it's governed democratically, or transparency is there, and how much of public interest is included, right? So the public also tend to think governance is about regulating AI model. That's the largest misunderstanding, right? When we speak about AI governance, the first thing everybody is like, we don't want to regulate. right? Or like we want a pro innovation environment, and we don't want to regulate AI. So, but governance is about, it's equally about labor conditions, data extractions, auditability or inclusion and public accountability, right? So many factors are included in that. So if you ignore those, you can have a very safe model in an abstract sense, but you will still end up with deeply unjust outcomes in real world scenarios. So that, I believe, is the biggest misunderstanding, right? AI governance is not only about preventing disaster; it's also about deciding whose values become infrastructure.
Thank you. I think makes a lot of sense that governance is not a skill breaker. It's essentially ensuring that whether we all are together going towards the right direction, and that is beneficial for all. Thank you so much, primarily for uh, putting this in black and white to our audience. Well, I think you covered a very important point, right? And that's why I thought that, okay, let me just double click a bit if you're comfortable with that, right? So, one part is that I think, as you rightly mentioned, that we are always talking about catastrophic scenarios, right? But nobody is talking about gradual disempowerment, right? So, maybe if you would like to touch upon that point, of course, if you are comfortable touching upon that point.
Yeah, sure. So what happens is, see, we always speak about digital divide, right? So that old divide was always about access to the internet, right? Access to the getting online, who was online and who was excluded. But right now, it's the divide that's being caused by AI is more structural, I would say, right? It's about who gets to shape the intelligence layer of the society, right? And who becomes raw material for it. So again, I sounds like a broken record, but who has compute capital, data leverage, and institutional voice. So, and on the other side, who is scraped, who is classified, predicted, nudged, surveilled, or displaced, right? So this is not just a divide between connected and unconnected people as we have seen before. It's more between makers and subjects, like model makers and the users, right? So between those who design these systems and those who live inside its decisions, right? The decisions it makes for these users in terms of healthcare or in financial systems, right? Like, okay, financial credit assessment or loan assessment, or a larger surveillance system in many dictatorial, many authoritarian regimes as well. So, and this divide is showing up everywhere. That's what worries me, like in labor, culture, language, misinformation, right? Automation in public service, and in fact, in geopolitical dependence itself, right? Like when we see how difficult it is for many countries to procure GPUs, when the Biden administrative came up with the executive order prohibiting sales of GPUs, right? So those are acting as a geopolitical factor these days, right? So this is why you can call that this new kind of divide is deeper than just about access, I would say.
Excellent. I think this makes a lot of sense, which says that, okay, once this digital divide becomes the actual reality, which slowly is absolutely becoming, right? Somebody will hold the power, and while others will have to rely on them and their mercy. Well, is this exactly the new divide you are writing in your book?
I'm looking at it in a multiple layers, not just on the how do I say, not just focusing on the some of the aspects, but rather what are the larger aspects of us, right? Like from automation, from the ecological aspect as well, right? Like the governance aspect, and I'm trying to bring that conversation there, that whatever we look as AI and its impacts as multiple layers to it. So that's where this divide comes into place.
Wonderful. When is this book getting published? If you can just tell our viewers.
Yeah, so we are expecting it to come out by end of next month. Fingers crossed.
Wonderful. So I think viewers, you have a very pertinent book which you should read, and according to Jibu, it's coming by the end of next month, right? That's going to make a lot of things black and white about the new era that you are getting in, where, and for us to understand, right, what is happening, how the whole society, governments, specifically the private organizations, who is holding the power, how the new divide is getting created. So we are all looking forward to your book, Mr. GB.
Thank you, Supradeep.
Great. So moving ahead, right? Very important question, right? Are we at risk of becoming just data colonies for the Western LLMs? Now, the pertinent point is that if you see all the top LLMs are coming from US, North America, a few are coming from the European region. And the other part, what we are essentially seeing is that China is coming up with left and right models, right? So are we who are the top consumers of this new generation of AI going to become mere data colonies?
Yes, actually, it is true, right? You have, most of the models we use, right? Whether the paid ones, the commercial ones, right? Claude or ChatGPT or Perplexity, right? They are all coming from Western side. You have others like Mistral, to an extent from Europe. Then you have the Chinese one, whether it's Quen or Kimi or DeepSeek and all those others. Like, so the risk is very real. Like, but the way we have to look at it is from a different point of view, right? If our languages, books, voices, images, and social behaviors are extracted to improve models owned elsewhere without meaningful consent, compensation, or governance, then it's called that. Then data colonialism is not just a metaphor, right? It's a political condition as well, right? And that's what's happening, right? We have so many entities in India, right? In terms of social entrepreneurship or larger, job creation has been annotating, creating these language models and, with multiple layers of intermediary, in selling it to the big tech as well, right? So that's one danger. The danger is not just that our data is taken; it's that our knowledge is reprocessed through someone else's architecture and returned to us with someone else's priorities, values, and business model embedded in it. And as a student of history, this sounds very similar to what we went through during the British colonialism, right? Our indigo, our cotton were extracted, processed in Manchester and sold to us as ready-made clothes, right? So, but here that also means our culture can be flattened, right? Our, the complexities can be mistranslated, and our markets are now becoming dependent on foreign model infrastructure. So, and if a local infrastructure do not build serious capacity, right? Not just apps on top of foreign APIs, but genuine public interest AI capacity, right? I know Sarvam is doing phenomenal job, but that's not enough for us, right? That's a one small step for us, but we need as a giant leap, right? So without that, we risk repeating this old story in this new circumstance, right? So the extraction first, dependency next, then what's next? Sovereignty loss. So that's what worries me most.
Thank you. It appears to be a very scary road ahead unless we all start understanding this and probably start contributing to a little more, I think, of our efforts into sovereignty. I absolutely also agree with you on this point that yes, I mean, the more and more data we share externally, our preferences and our choices in our culture, essentially, there is a big chance of everything getting flattened. Yeah, I think very interesting perspective. But with this, I would also talk a little bit about the market, right? So what happens today is that we all are driven by market. I was recently listening to one of the pitches by one of the very formidable VCs, right? They are essentially saying that we are here to shrink the 18 months SaaS journey to a 3 months journey for the startups who join us, right? We will help their journey to become as short as 3 months, what probably SaaS companies used to basically achieve in 18 months before. Now, what we're essentially seeing over here is that the market is rewarding startups for moving fast and breaking things. How do you convince young builders, right, to prioritize responsible AI when most of the investors, right, just want the speed of execution?
So To be honest here, lectures, right? Moral lectures never work in this space. You have to speak in the language of risk, trust, and long-term value, right? We have seen many organizations following this, moving fast, breaking things, and look at their trajectory, right? Look at some of them have made it. We often, there is a survivorship bias, and we often hear about the ones that made it big, but we often forget that there are hundreds of startups that failed, trying to do this moving fast, breaking things situation, right? So a founder need to understand that, let's say, irresponsible AI, it's not just ethically weak, it is uh, strategically weak as well, right? Like if your system harms yourself, right? If it hallucinates in high stakes settings, right? And reproduces bias, leaks data, or collapse under larger public scrutiny, you do not have a successful model, right? What you have is a liability, right? So that's important, right? What you build, it has to stand the test of all this scrutiny. Now, secondly, I think we need to stop framing responsibility AI or AI governance as anti-innovation. Right? That's what I hear all the time. Regulation is gonna harm innovation. Look at aviation industry; it's the most regulated industry, and nobody speaks that aviation industry hasn't had innovation in the last 50 years or 60 years, right? Similarly, nuclear highly regulated, but every year we hear how close we are getting closer to nuclear fusion. So the only thing that prohibits us to reach those milestones are the larger level of energy requirement to kickstart this chain reactions. Right? So that's a misunderstanding that regulation harms innovation, right? So the real question is what kind of innovation survives, when it contacts with the real world scenarios. And the companies that, go through this, induce are the ones that can explain their system, right? They can document their practices, they can audit models, right? Failure models as well, modes, and build trust across regulators, users, and larger institutions. So finally, I would tell this to young builders: like, do not be proud about shipping social damage at scale, right? Speed is impressive only if the direction is sound, right? You can't just have speed and go around in circle. It only matters when you have a direction as well.
Wonderful. I think makes a lot of sense for every, I would say, mature, seasoned builders, right, who are building something which is valuable, sustainable. I think this makes a lot of sense. Now, as you have covered, I think the two of the key things, right? One is the atomic energy part that you have, the nuclear part you have covered, right? I would like to get into that space itself, how that is getting regulated. So before that, right, we have seen that there is a EU Act. US had a couple of executive orders, one which came in 2023. Again, actually has been repealed in 2025. Not going into details of that, but then we had a India DPDP Act, right? So now going ahead, right, we are seeing different countries, right, which are essentially coming up with their own regulation, keeping their thought process, philosophies in mind, how they want to use AI. We don't have any international body like how IAEA prevails today, at least for the nuclear energy, right? So do you think such body is important to essentially guide the world towards right direction?
I think we do have bodies like that. So the problem is we have too many bodies. Like we have GPAI, Global Partnership on AI, doing phenomenal work. You have the UN Global Compact doing work. Then you have these specific bodies like ITU has their own work happening, or like the WIPO, the World Patent Organization, doing their own work. But yeah, larger a question as similar to IEA, do we need one? The answer is yes. We need both layers. We need the national layer as well as the international layer, right? So national regulation matters because when the harms are local, right? We have labor law, consumer protection, procurement, discrimination, policing, healthcare systems. These are all operate in national or subnational context. So country level regulation is unavoidable, right? So we can go with different kind of regulation. You can have a risk-based regulation as EU is trying to do, or you can have the regulators in the particular sector doing their own things, like what UK has proposed, right? So, but fragmentation is the problem here. Like, and that's not enough because the larger problem comes with AI supply chain, which are very transnational, right? So if you look at chip, the cloud infrastructure or the models itself and applications, right, in military or in other domains, they do not stop at borders. So we need a stronger international coordination, right? So that's it. I'm cautious about simplistic analogies such as the IEA. AI is not something like uranium, you can say, right? Like, so it is more diffuse, more commercial, and it's more embedded in our daily life, right? So the answer may not be a single global AI body with a larger universal authority. A better option will be a layered regime, right? Common standards on transparency, compute, frontierers, military use, and you can combine that with strong domestic enforcement and maybe regional frameworks like what EU has done. So, but I believe the real danger right now happening is not just fragmentation; it is this fragmentation plus corporate regulatory arbitrage that's creating the larger risk.
I think this is definitely going to bring more clarity to how probably the direction of regulation should be. Thank you again. You founded Photosapiens Foundation. What was the exact gap or frustration you saw in the ecosystem that made you say that I need to start a foundation to fix this?
Yeah, so the idea was the frustration here was very simple, right? Too much of the AI ecosystem was being shaped either by the hype or by the elite policy discourse, or too little by grounded public interest work that actually connect technology to communities, education aspect, ethics, or larger social impact aspect as well. So there was a big gap between this abstract conversations we have, right? Like every day we see very weird quotes from some of these AI leaders, right? And then the people who have to live with those consequences, and that was a gap between the technical ambitions, on the one side we have as a society, and the institutional seriousness as well, right? And we had to understand that most of these institutions that has to oversee these current challenges were built for a different time, right? Somebody was telling me the other day that the electoral colleges in US, right, for the states, it was built in a time when somebody has to travel days and days on a horse carriage to reach Washington to elect a president, right? Now, when election used to be a month-long process, but that's not the reality anymore. But we still have that institutions from the past. Same thing with our country as well. So that's what happens here. So in a way, everybody wants to do something nowadays with AI. I don't know. Everybody wants to build pilots, summits, to create something on AI. And the interesting thing is nobody speak about accountability. Nobody speak about real capacity building, right? And sustained civic work, right? So the foundation came from that frustration, right? The idea was to build a space that takes intelligence, ethics, society, and public purpose seriously, right? Especially from a global South perspective. So it was not an afterthought I had, but it was, for me, I see it as a starting point of something bigger or larger. So that's where the whole idea came into place.
Excellent. I think this whole philosophy within Photosapiens matters a lot. Even what we have been suggesting at Responsible AI has been that you press the accelerator, but stay in the gut. I mean, in the race, right? Don't jump off the race. So that's where essentially we are trying to tell people that, okay, I mean, here is the basic minimum fabric of trust that you need to essentially bring in the AI agents. I see a lot of, we are in adjacent spaces, but I see a lot of common thoughts between how we are traveling ahead. So maybe a great point which you made, and I see a lot of synergy between the way we are thinking. So wonderful. I believe that there can be a possible coordination between us to go ahead.
Sure. We need all the hands here. It's not about single individual journey here. It's about larger collective action and thoughts here.
Exactly. I think a lot of people who are thinking alike, right, and who believe and can probably understand what's coming ahead, they would probably work together to build something which is suitable for the current situation that we're in. Thank you so much. I will move ahead, right, to the one of the most scariest questions, right? So looking ahead to 2030, we have been talking about how AI, if not going well, right, what challenges it can bring in, right? Now, looking ahead, let's say all our efforts, right, fail to basically govern AI fails, right? What is your biggest fear? And let's say we get it right, the people who are working in this field trying to ensure that things go right. If it gets right, what is your greatest hope?
So my biggest fear is not actually something like a Matrix or Terminator scenario, right? AI taking over. But my biggest fear is about a world where millions lose meaningful work faster than institutions can respond, and a world where public discourse became saturated with synthetic noise, right? Good news that Sora has finally closed. So a world where governments use this opaque system to automate execution, executing decisions is another major concern I have. We have seen that many governments, right, multiple layers, across the world, rush into AI adoption to show, the politicians and the leaders want to show how progressive and pro-innovation they are without thinking about the larger consequences. So a world where culture is flattened, education is hollowed out, and truth becomes kind of a larger theater, right? So in my work, the biggest fear is this kind of normalized dehumanization, I would say. On the other hand, the hope will be, of course, where AI forces us to ask hard questions, right? What should it means being human? What should be what should be public, and what should never be optimized for profit alone, right? And if we get that kind of narrative right, AI could expand access to knowledge, right? Drug discovery, solving scientific problems, strengthening public services, right? And reduce all the form of drudgery, not, but only if it's embedded in democratic institutions and in social platforms, right? So the best future is not where machines become godlike. That's also something Elon Musk has said. It is one where humans become more wise about the power and it kind of empower us to think, or understand as what it means to be human in an age of machines.
Excellent. I think this is very pertinent. I completely concur with you on this, right? And hopefully, I think, as you rightly mentioned, we will go towards the path of hope, where there are so many terminal diseases and illness people face, and we still don't have any hope that better. But maybe with AI getting in the right track, we might identify, discover, or innovate something which what is going to help save the humanity. Thank you so much. Now going ahead, right? Open source AI or closed source AI? Which one ultimately democratizes power?
Closed source AI clearly concentrates power. We know that, right? It centralizes knowledge, access, and that's very obvious. And open source is not a magic solution either, right? And we have to also be careful about what we call open source, right? Open weight alone doesn't qualify as open source, as we have seen with some of the models from Meta and others. So that's the larger question. A model can be open and still inaccessible in practice if compute or fine-tuning capacity or infrastructure remain concentrated. So openness without capacity just it doesn't make sense. So that said, if I had to choose that direction, it's more compatible with open source ecosystem with safeguards, where open standards, open compute, the whole ecosystem, right? Local capacities, auditable systems, and common oriented infrastructure. So otherwise, open just become a branding word while dependency remains same.
Thank you for sharing this very valuable perspective. Now, it's a hypothetical situation, but yeah, if you could force every AI CEO, maybe the top guys who are basically selling this frontier models today to us, to read one book, other than, of course, your book, which is just will come out, we will probably endorse them to read that as well. But before that, right, if there is any book that you want them to read before getting into this I mean, they're already in this race, but we cannot stop them. But which one book probably you would suggest them to read?
There are plenty of amazing books. Some of them actually inspired me to put my work together. Like Atlas of AI by K. Crawford, or Empires of AI. Recently, that Karen House came out. Phenomenal books. Stuart Russell's book, Human Compatible, and many more are there. But I think I want that still feel. What I will choose will be The Age of Surveillance Capitalism by Shoshana Zuboff. That one feels more close to my heart. And there's another book. I'm trying to remember the name of the author. I don't remember, but it's called This Is How the World Ends. It's something like that, the title. It's about all these cybersecurity vulnerabilities and how they are traded, in circles, how state intelligence agencies trade them, and similar ones like that. So I think, yeah, these are some of the books I would, especially the one by Zuboff, that would be the ones I would recommend.
Wonderful. I hope you are referring to probably to that very interesting book, right? I think there was a line from this poem of the Hollow Man, right, which says essentially that this is the way the world ends, not with a bang but with a paper.
I wanted to find that name of the book. It's an amazing book. I had it as an audio book. It's a book on cyber security, and so there's a whole market, cyber security vulnerability market. Yeah. So it's called This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends. Yeah, that's the name. Nicole Perlot. The book is actually in a different way scary. It looks into all the cyber attacks. It looks at the vulnerability market, right? I had no idea a market such as existed, and the race to find vulnerabilities in the system, and how state actors buy these vulnerabilities for millions of dollars. That's the eye opener for me.
Wonderful. I think this will be very helpful probably for our viewers to probably go and read some of these books and help them get a good understanding about what might go right, what might not go right if we don't do the right thing. Wonderful. So going ahead, right, what message that you will leave for businesses who are accelerating the pace of AI development?
I don't believe I am a guru or a Swamiji to give a larger message to people who are doing wonderful job, right? I'm just somebody who is understanding, learning or looking into these challenges and the larger reality, and trying to raise voice, right? Or when I was when we built IndiaAI together, our focus was to build an ecosystem. So I'm somebody who looks at this micro trends or micro objectives and place them in a larger sense, right? In a macro reality. But one thing I would say as a request will be, please do not confuse speed with legitimacy, as you mentioned before, the move fast, break things analogy. So if you're building systems that affects people's work, health, safety, or dignity, then there is no point in saying we shipped it fast. That's not a defense. It's an admission of failure, right? So the reality is the burden of error is not carried by the model. It's carried by the human being who may be misdiagnosed, who may be denied a loan or a placement, right? Or who may be displaced or disfamed, right? So that means responsibility cannot be an afterthought or a PR layer. It has to be built into design, into deployment, right? And accountability from the start, from the get-go. So my humble request here is, build as if the people downstream from your systems are real, because they are. And if your business model depends on treating them as some sort of collateral damage, then the problem is not about your AI ethics. The problem is your business model in the larger sense.
Wonderful. I think when my viewers probably are going to go through this video and see it end to end, I'm sure they are going to say this one thing. that this was an amazing discussion. A lot of knowledge got disseminated in this 30 to 40 minutes that we had the discussion. I'm sure they're going to take a lot of learnings from here and then use it in their journey. So thank you so much, Mr. Jibu, for your time today and sharing very valuable information. I had a great time learning a lot many things here, and I'm sure the viewers of this podcast would be taking away a lot on this space of.
Thank you, Shubhradeep. It was a pleasure conversing with you. And thank you very much and for the wonderful questions as well.